Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Jowins Fashion Ville. Today I'll be explaining to you how I made a kimono jacket. It's actually a very easy jacket to recreate if you put your mind to it. So if this is what you're looking for, please watch this video to the end, like, and don't forget to subscribe. So guys, let's get started. So guys, I'll be drafting the pattern with my lining, okay? And then later, much later, we'll transfer the pattern to our main fabric, okay? So I have the shoulder line and I also have the chest line, I have the waist line, the hip line, and the full measurement of the dress, okay? And I actually placed the fabric on fold. You can see I'll be cutting the front and the back together, okay? So I went ahead to draft the neckline. I'll be going out by 2.5 inches, and I went ahead to place my shoulder measurement, which is half of my shoulder measurement, on the chest line. For me, I have the 7.5, and I'll be adding additional half an inch for my seam allowance, okay? So I went ahead to establish the shoulder slants, as you can see me doing right here, okay? So the next thing I simply did was to place my shoulder measurements on my chest line to confirm the accuracy before going ahead to establish my armhole. So I connected the 2 points together, okay? So the next thing I'll do is to draft the armhole curve. So I'll be drafting the front and the back, like I explained earlier, that I'll be cutting the front and the back panel together, okay? So I simply placed the quarter of my bust circumference on my chest line. If you're drafting with me, go ahead and do so. Then I took the measurement of the midpoint of my armhole, and then from that point I went in by half an inch, okay, which is 0.5, okay? So I went ahead to establish the front armhole curve, okay, as you can see me doing right now. So this is the front armhole curve, okay? So after now, I'll go ahead and establish the back armhole curve. So from the midpoint of the armhole line, as you can see, I went ahead to connect it to the bust point, okay, which is the quarter of my bust circumference. So next thing I simply did was to place 1 inch, was to mark rather 1 inch ease allowance, and then plus 1 inch seam allowance. Then I went ahead to blend the lines, okay? So this is not going to be a bogus kimono because it's a jacket actually, so I'll be very economical with the seam allowance. So I intend to use just half an inch for the seam allowance for this kimono jacket, but I actually placed 1 inch on the chest line, and the reason for this I'll explain later, okay? So on the waistline, I went ahead to place the quarter of my waist circumference plus half an inch ease allowance, and then plus 1 inch seam allowance, as you can see me doing. Then I simply went ahead to also mark the quarter of my hip circumference on the hip line. So the quarter of your hip circumference is your hip circumference divided by 4. So right here I'm placing the quarter of my hip circumference on the hip line. So go ahead and divide your hip circumference by 4 and place it on the hip line. Then plus plus half an inch ease allowance, and then 1 inch seam allowance, okay? So right here I'm trying to confirm the accuracy of my measurement on the chest line. So I'll go ahead and connect the points together, okay? So right here I'll be using the curvy part of my French curve to actually create that curve of the human body on my pattern, okay? It's not a sharp line, it's actually a curvy line right here, okay? So what I'll simply do, I'll simply go ahead to transfer the measurement I have on my hip line on the full length of my jacket, on my kimono jacket, okay? So right here I'm trying to ascertain the measurement on the hip line, and I'll simply go ahead and transfer it on the full length of my kimono jacket, okay? So this is it right here. So I'll go ahead and add additional 1 inch ease allowance for the hemline, okay? And then I'll connect it as you can see me doing. Okay, so on the hemline, you can actually go ahead and make it a curvy, like create a slope there. But for me, I think I'm good like this. It's okay for me like this. But you can go ahead and go up a little bit by 1 inch and then create a curve. Okay, so it's fine that way. So right here we have drafted the front and back together. So what I'll simply do here, I'm trying to create the neckline for the back panel. So right here I came down by 1 inch and I drafted the neckline. So I'll go ahead and cut out this pattern right here, then I'll detach or remove the back panel before drafting the neckline of the front panel. So guys, right here I've removed the back panel, so I'll be working strictly on just one, that is the front panel. So I'll go ahead and redraft the neckline, the armhole for the front panel. You can see I'm going deeper, establishing the curve for the front armhole. Okay, yeah, so we're good here. This is the front armhole. Okay, have in mind that I just have the front panel on my work table. Okay, so right here I'll go ahead and establish the neckline. So have in mind that our neck measurement is 2.5 inches. Okay, so on the chest line, remember that I marked 1 inch as the ease allowance, so I'll be utilizing half an inch for the neckline. So on the chest line, from on the center front, I went in by half an inch, and I'm connecting the neckline, okay, to that half an inch mark on the chest line. Okay, so you can see, and then I'll extend it down to a little bit above the waistline. Okay, so this is the neckline for the front panel. Okay, so you can see how I drafted both the front and the neckline on the same fold. Okay, so what I'll simply do, I'll go ahead and cut out the neckline. Okay, so just watch me, I'm sure you understand, and if you have any questions, I'll be in the comment section to address it. Okay, so right here I'm establishing the neckline for the front panel. Okay, so after creating the neckline, I'll go ahead and open up the front panel. Okay, have in mind that this is a jacket and the front part of a jacket is open. Okay, so yeah, we're good here. So guys, you can see what we have already. So the next thing I will do is to create the sleeve, to draft the pattern for the sleeve. Okay, it's a kimono jacket with a sleeve, more like a 3/4 length sleeve. Okay, so we have the lines on the fabric. I'll be using my main fabric to draft, and later I'll transfer to the lining. Okay, so this is the we have the shoulder line, the bicep, the elbow, and the full length of the sleeve. So I went ahead to take the measurements of the elbow and the full length, and I connected it. So the next thing I'll do is to establish the cap's height. Okay, so for me, I have my own pattern that works for me. So I simply placed my armhole measurement on my biceps. I usually establish my armhole, my cap's height from my biceps. Okay, so right here I drafted a slant towards the shoulder line, so I'll go ahead and divide that line into 3 equal parts. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is to draft the curve after dividing it into 3 equal parts. So right here I'm trying to create the curves and the slope here. Okay, so we're good here. Okay, so for me this is okay. Okay, so the next thing I will do, I'll go ahead and ascertain the accuracy of my armhole slope on my on the pattern I drafted. Okay, so right here I'll go and confirm it if it's matching with the slope on the sleeve. If it's not, I'll go ahead and add a little bit, like adjust the slope, okay, to suit the one on my jacket. So I just added 1/4 of an inch, and I went ahead to blend it. Okay, so I won't have any shortage while joining the sleeve together. So I went ahead to connect it, as you can see me doing. Okay, so this is the pattern for the sleeve. It's very easy to draft. Okay, so I'm notching the center point of the sleeve. So guys, this is it. I actually cut the 2 sleeves together. Okay, so I went ahead to use the main fabric, the sleeve, and I cut the lining as well. And I used the lining for the kimono jacket, it's like vice versa, to cut the main fabric. So remember where we drafted. I drafted the kimono jacket on the lining and the sleeve on the main fabric. So I went ahead to cut out the lining for it. Okay, so right here I've used the lining to turn up the jacket, the kimono jacket. Okay, so what you simply do is the seam allowance on your hemline, you take it out on your main fabric to enable you turn it up. Okay, so I've attached it to the main fabric, as you can see, and you can see how neat it's looking already. Okay, so this is the back panel. So guys, for the front panel, I simply did the same, reduced the length of the lining by the same allowance on the hemline, and I turned it up. But for the center front, I did not turn up the center front except the sides. Okay, I closed the sides and the hemline, but the center front I just top stitched. Okay, and the neckline I left it unattended to, but I'll definitely top stitch it so that it will be easy for me to join my sleeve and my band. Okay, so what I'll simply do next is to join the shoulder of the front panel to the back. Okay, I hope we know how to do it, but for those who don't, what I simply do is lining to lining, main fabric to main fabric. Okay, and then I'll run my stitch and I have my shoulders well attached rather. Okay, so guys, this is our sleeve pattern we have here, and remember I said that I used the pattern to cut out the lining, so I went ahead to attach the lining. I didn't use the lining to turn up the main fabric. I just simply top stitched it. Okay, so I had my reasons for it. Okay, so basically I'll be attaching a band at the hemline of the sleeve, and this is the band I'll be using for it. Okay, so the band is measuring around 2.5 inches on fold and then 5 inches on a spread. So right now I placed it on a bias fold, which is measuring 2.5 inches. Okay, and the length of the band is the total length of the hem of the sleeve. Okay, the hemline, that's the hem part of the sleeve. So what I'll simply do is to place this bias fold on the lining against the front. Okay, so I'll sew this on the back. That is the wrong side. I'll go ahead and sew this, then it will be against the front, so I'll turn it against the front. Okay, so I hope we understand what I just said. Okay, so it's going to be like this after stitching. So I'll do this off camera and then I'll bring it for us to see. Okay, so now after joining the shoulder to shoulder of the front and the back panel, this is the outcome of our jacket, looking so cool on the work table. Okay, so I'll simply just show us what it looks like after joining the shoulder. This is the inner part of the shoulder seam. Okay, like I mentioned, attaching it is shoulder to lining to lining and main fabric to the main fabric. Okay, so guys, this is our sleeve and I've attached the band to the hemline of the sleeve. I'll simply go ahead and attach the sleeve to the kimono jacket. So remember that I notched the center point of the sleeve, so I'll place it on the line, okay, that joins the back and the front shoulder. Okay, that's the shoulder seam. I'll simply place it on the shoulder seam line. Okay, so I'll simply go ahead and stitch it round like so. So you can see guys, I've attached the sleeve to the kimono jacket and you can see how it's looking already. So we're almost done but not yet through. Okay, so the seam allowance for joining is 1 inch. Okay, so I've joined the sides of the kimono jacket. The next thing for us to do is to attach the band. Okay, so right here I'm just turning it out for us to see what it looks on the outside. That is the main fabric, the outer part. Okay, so it's really cool this way. Okay, so guys, we're good here. So the next thing I'll do is to simply take an accurate measurement of this area, which is the center point, center front, with the neckline inclusive. So that's exactly what I'm doing, using my measuring tape to get the total length of this area. I said the center front with the neckline inclusive. So I'll get the total and then cut out a band for it. So guys, having done that, I went ahead to cut out the band. So this is the band for this jacket, and you can see how long it is. Okay, you can cut it straight away in one piece, or you can go ahead to like cut and join, like cut in bits and then join it. So for this particular band, I actually joined at some point. Okay, so on a fold, on a bias fold, is also measuring 2.5 inches, and on a spread it's 5 inches we have. And the length of this band is the total length of the center front with the neckline inclusive, like I highlighted earlier on. Okay, yeah, so these are the points where I joined the bands for us to see. And I'll simply go ahead and place this band at the place where it's required to be. Okay, so right here I'm trying to determine the center point of the neckline to enable me place the band properly, so that we won't be having one part short and the other one long, so that we'll just have equal length on both sides. Okay, so having done that, I'll go ahead and place my band, the center of my band. So I went ahead to determine the center of the band. So that's the center of my band. Then I will place it this way. Okay, so you can sandwich if you choose, but I'm just placing it this way. So I'll secure it with a pin. I'll take it off camera, and then I'll join the band to the center front and the neckline, like I highlighted earlier. Okay, so I'll go ahead and stitch it this way. I'll just keep going down, keep going down. Then at the end of it, at the hemline, okay, I'll just cut it by additional 0.5 inch. I'll flip it to the other side. I will stitch it and flip it back. So guys, we have come to the end of this tutorial. This is our kimono jacket, and you can see how I neatly attached the band to the kimono. Okay, so I gave this a neat press. Don't forget to iron and iron properly. Okay, so guys, if you find this tutorial very helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share the video. I'll be in the comment section. For those who find any point that you feel that you don't understand, please don't forget to drop it in the comment section. I'll be there to address all your questions. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in my next video. So have a blessed day. Bye.